recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for holding this critically important hearing and for your continued leadership on behalf of working families across our country. I also want to thank Congresswoman DeLauro for her steadfast leadership on this issue and for sharing her story earlier, which we know is the story of millions of Americans. It is simply appalling that the United States continues to be one of only 2 industrialized nations in the world without any form of paid family leave. It is shameful, and this reality continues to place undue burdens on families already struggling to make ends meet, households disproportionately led by women already struggling to get by while wages are stagnant, and lingering gender and racial pay gaps persist. Current policy is simply out of touch with the fact that at some point, virtually every working person, because hardship does not discriminate, will need to take time away from a job to fulfill caregiving responsibilities, to recover from a serious injury or disruptive life event. While I was a caregiver to my mother in the final throes of her leukemia battle, making decisions by the hour about how to extend her life while doing my best to center her dignity throughout that process, battling cancer while also battling bill collectors, and along with the trauma of such a devastating life event. It was as if seeing my mother, Sandy, facing her final days wasn't already hard enough. And so my experience is not unique. In fact, there are more than 34 million caregivers who provided unpaid care to a parent or a relative in the last 12 months alone. So Ms. Tucker, thank you so much for sharing your story earlier today. Can you share what the day-to-day of caring for your mother entailed?
I can. Thank you. Yes. You know, it was tough. It was tough to try to make the arrangements that we needed to make for her care, especially as she aged, because this was over a 10-year period. It was tough finding doctors who she felt comfortable with, being a part of the sandwich generation, having a child who would come with me every day to the nursing facility that she spent her final year in because she had gotten to a point where she needed care. And I remember one time my daughter saying to me, do we have to come every day to see Grammy? Well, that was pretty devastating. It was tough dealing with the financial aspect of this. My mother was a retired teacher, so she had some savings, and she had a monthly income from her retirement and from her Social Security that lightened that load. But there was nothing easy about it, and
All-consuming.
I was on my own to find the resources that we needed each time she had a crisis and we needed to go to the next level of care.
Thank you. And it's my understanding that you also cared for your sister after she suffered a severe spinal cord injury as well. So how did you manage serving as a caregiver for both your mom and sister, and how did this impact your financial situation? And are you still recovering?
There's a lot of questions there.
I'm sorry.
A lot to unpack. Well, lucky for me, these illnesses, these events didn't occur at the same time. My sister's accident or bleed occurred 5 years after my mother's death, so we had time to kind of hang out before she became really ill with her spinal cord injury, which is what it was. And again, when I think back on it, I don't know how I did it. I just found the resources that I needed to do it, and I was in a place where I had the flexibility with work to do it. I had vacation time and I had sick leave, and I'm one of those people who's always at work, So I had accumulated a lot of leave that allowed me to pinch off the 3 hours I needed to go to the hospital before coming to work. And it was a quilt, a patchwork of using leave and thinking it through. In terms of support, I had a supportive family and a supportive spouse at the time that helped to make it easier. And I was in a 2-income household that helped to make it easier. But it meant that I was up late looking at the numbers for trying to figure out how we were going to make it happen. And we almost used up all of my mother's savings before she passed away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.